I want to focus on a handful of things that's going on right now with current events. I want to get your thoughts on this. One, with obviously, what we've seen the last 30 days with Minnesota. At first, Nick Shirley's content goes viral. We've all seen it. The 43-minute clip with what's going on there with, insurance and clinics and billions of dollars, millions of dollars, videos, no kids are in there. And then we hear what happens with the first shooting. I believe it's on January 6th, if I'm not mistaken, January 7th with Renee Good. And then you have Alex Pretti that happens. Now that we've kind of seen everything for the most part, we haven't had the hearing yet, we haven't done all of that. What is your impression? What is your opinion on what's happened with Minnesota?
I think there are some things that bring all of us together. I think that even if you're a left-wing Democrat in Boston and there's a rapist, a murderer, some guy assaulting somebody with a hammer, bad people that are in the jails that serve their time, they need to be deported. Even in Boston, they're fine with that. But we have to cooperate. The local officials have to cooperate with the national officials. Some of that's happened in a lot of places, but there's been more resistance in Minneapolis than just about any place in the United States. I think it changes, though, when all of a sudden the images aren't just arresting the bad guys. The images are, the shooting of somebody who's filming. And then the explanation from DHS is, well, he assaulted these officers. And, it snowed that week. And so everybody's at home watching these videos. You probably saw it 100 times on TV. And they're like, well, gosh, it looks like he's retreating. He's in the middle of the road filming. He's waving a car by, so he's not even obstructing traffic. They come towards him. He retreats. One of the ICE agents violently pushes a woman down. Now, while that's not something that is, that you arrest the ICE agent for, it's something that I wouldn't have anybody working for me who did that. That just is unacceptable behavior. If he was in the local police department and a woman came up and said, I hate the police or whatever, and I'm sure they were saying hateful things, and I'm sure they were instigating, but to violently throw her to the ground, as they do, Petri turns to help her up, and that's when they grab him from behind. At no point does he assault anybody. So it assaults our sense of justice and our sense of any kind of right or wrong to say something that's not true. He did not assault anyone. Did he use bad language? Did he yell slurs at them? Probably. But he did not assault anybody. And then they say he brandished a weapon. Well, that wasn't true either. And then we have Steve Miller saying, well, he's an assassin. He's a would-be assassin. None of these things are true. And so then people say, well, I had this yesterday. A right-wing interviewer said, well, you're aiding and abetting the left. And I said, well, I believe that ICE has a function, and I believe that ICE has to be respected. But the only way they can be respected is if they act in a just manner. So if you want ICE to continue and ICE to remove some of these bad people from our country, they have to behave, and they can't tell us something that's not true. There has to be a code. There has to be a way that people are treated. And this was a what they call a bad shooting. This was a terrible tragedy. The man never touched his weapon. The gun, apparently, by the video, is pulled out by another one who yells, gun, 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 and the officers made a mistake. Does that mean the officers should go to prison? No, but it probably means they shouldn't be policemen anymore. They shouldn't be law enforcement. It's a mistake. It's a terrible, tragic mistake. And so I don't want to end ICE, but you have to have justice and you have to have a review. And I said, frankly, every local police department, even if it's a good shooting in my town, a man came and shot a policeman 8 times. The person riding along was a Marine looking to become a policeman. He then killed the person with his bare hands. All justified. Bare hands. All justified. Took the police a year and a half to investigate it. But even a good shooting, and everybody thought that was a justified killing, gets investigated. And so the fact that there would be no investigation, we would just say, nothing to see here, this guy's an assassin, it damages ICE worse than anything else that's being done by the left. So I think we have to have an independent investigation at this point.
I agree. And, I think we need to do it to see what happened there. Did you follow the story about knowing the weapon that he pulled, that Alex Pretti had, the SIG 320, the 100 cases and allegations where it goes off because it's super sensitive? And then once it went off, the other ICE heard the sound, and then boom, he reacted to it.
Yeah, and I thought that's what might have happened. It may still be what had happened, and that would make a lot more sense.
Uncommanded discharge is what they call it, with that specific
an
weapon.
Accidental discharge. So as the police officer's removing it, you hear a gunshot, and they all fire, think it's coming from the person they're holding down. That would actually be a much easier to understand. It still would be a tragedy, and it still wouldn't be good, but it would be easier to understand. The report from DHS that came out most recently did not mention any other discharge. And you would think the police officers there justifying their action would say, we heard a shot. Right. And they also would be able to look at the gun. I mean, you can tell, I'm not a forensics guy, but you can look at a gun and tell, I think immediately if it's been fired. And so I don't know. I think that if that happened, that would you would understand why they opened fire. If that didn't happen, I think they're responding to gun, he's got a gun, and thinking that underneath him somehow he has a gun, instead of that there was a gun, behind him in his waistband that actually had already been removed. I don't know. And like I say, there's a big difference. And I think what we don't differentiate in our country is we often think, all bad, all good. This isn't all bad, all good. These are people trying to do their job. They are being insulted, yelled at, spit upon, and it's a tough job. And I wish the people in Minnesota and the government were doing a better job cooperating. This shouldn't be happening. I have two policemen that work for me. They say in my small town in Kentucky, if the DEA comes in, the FBI, ATF, they come in and say, we have someone who needs to be arrested in your town. It's like one or two of them come in. The local sheriff or the police department sends 10 people with them, and most of the work's actually done by the local people in arresting the local person with the, working together. Now, my understanding is Minneapolis hasn't been allowing that. If Minneapolis were allowing that, many of these things wouldn't happen. But it did happen, and the only way you can restore confidence in ICE, some of the people have to go. They've let go of one of the commanders. That's a step forward. They've sent somebody new in, homing in to look at the situation. They've promised they're going to be, I think, less confrontational. See, I don't understand why we're having these conversations in the street, really. And if you're going into someone's house, how sort of anybody is loitering around the streets and having these confrontations.
Did you see the other clip of Alex Pretti, what he did in the streets like a week prior to that or 2 weeks prior to that? See, the challenge with what you're saying is, which I agree with, is on one end, he came out, he wanted to kill, he was doing this. On the other hand, he's a nice man. He would never do anything.
It's not all one or the other.
Yeah, I want to show you this clip. I want to show you this clip by Elizabeth Warren. So I'm sure you've seen this. She's narrating it while you see him in the background.
Caring for people was at the core of who he was. He was incapable of causing harm. Alex carried patience, compassion, and calm as a steady light within him. Even at the very end, that light was there. I recognized his familiar stillness and signature calm composure.
So when you see these things, right, how do you react to it?
When I saw the second clip that was released of a different day in a different situation, I think every situation has to be judged as it is. So I would have said he's guilty at the very least of vandalism, and there is a form of assault that's going on when he's kicking the car and breaking the taillight. And I was thinking, gosh, they should have arrested him that day and done it in a way where he wasn't killed, but arrested. Maybe he'd have still been in jail and, it wouldn't have happened.
First time around.
Yeah, the first time around.
He would have been alive, more importantly. He could have been in jail, but
the whole
alive.
thing would have been avoided. But it's figuring it out. And a lot of us don't realize how tough the job is of a policeman. Local policemen are doing this every day. So local policemen have to figure out how to do it. And like I say, it gets back to the second instance where where the ICE agent is violently pushing the woman to the ground. That's not the way it works. And really, you wouldn't be on a local police force if you were, on a street corner with people yelling at you and you push a woman to the ground. That just probably wouldn't be acceptable to be in a police department to do that. But when he kicks a car and breaks a headlight, he's now caused damage. It's vandalism. It may well be a form of assault. At that point, they would have been justified in arresting him. But police have to figure out how to arrest people without killing them. And it's very difficult. I'm not saying it's an easy job, but it shows that he really probably wasn't an angel either, that he was a very angry man. And but nothing justifies what happened ladder encounter. And really, I think on the ladder encounter, you have to figure out a way to de-escalate things. And de-escalating things is not, pepper spraying everybody and bombing people with pepper spray, basically.
When we set out to create a shoe that blends comfort, function, and luxury, we had the choice to make it fast. We had the choice to make it cheap. We chose neither. Instead, we chose Tuscany, Italy. We chose true Italian craftsmanship, each pair touched by 50 skilled hands. We chose patience, spending 2 years perfecting every detail, and we chose the finest quality at every step. Introducing the Future Looks Bright collection. Not rushed, not disposable, not ordinary. Rather, intentional, luxurious, timeless. If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.